Yes, this is one of the things I've been defining as I write what I do, and I note this, that I am rewriting human history, and I really am. And people have come to know the idea of consciousness, and even Paul used that, but that was the beginning, that was the start of something. Again, when you're raising your children from very small age to and through grade school and high school, you do certain things with your children. But as they get bigger, then things change, don't they? Okay, then the child has its own life. And this, again, is with like our little self that we're raising here, that we've created. Remember, you created yourself in your mother's womb. Many people forget. So the old idea that God created you or something like that, that's fine. That's a cute idea. But realistically, you created yourself in your mother's womb. So the idea here between consciousness and awareness, yes. Awareness is the real you. And that is you as a being of light. The old idea is soul, but that's really not very well defined, and it's kind of lost its impact, and there's really no definition with it because most people have no idea what that is, but it does sound good, doesn't it? As, we're told this by the religious orders and the spiritual paths and whatever. But actually, we are a being of light more so than just the astral body that shimmers. That's our real awareness. So I've more defined it. Consciousness, like the old terms, group consciousness, God consciousness, all these things, that is in creation. That is something we create, okay? And it relates to creation. It really does. Even though we've used the terms, it has nothing to do with what I define as the real universes from the 7th level and on up. And in a way, there's really no such thing as these, but in the literal sense for our minds, we do use these terms and these different levels because the actuality of life is an isness. It already is. There's no beginning, there's no end. But this isness has provided what we are experiencing as creation so that we can wake up from the big eggshell that we are in. And actually the psychic realms is just like that. It's a big eggshell. And in this eggshell, you might say we're eating up the ingredients here to better understand and to better become aware and then compare with what we've experienced to the reality life is so we can recognize it. We see things. It's just like when we drive down the street. We see things, okay? We see things all over the place. And how many times has it been where we're driving down and all of a sudden years later we go, gee, I never noticed that sign over there or that house or that whatever. All of a sudden we recognize that that is there. So again, life is more than just seeing, it's recognizing. And like I've said many times, when we're younger, we go through the process of our ABCs until we eventually recognize what the symbols mean. But at first we just see them. But then when we add recognition to it, now we can work with it, can't we? Well, there's many ways to define consciousness, and that is one way. There's many ways. And consciousness, again, is something created. It's a created idea that we agree to. And it's like the idea that, oh, gee, God created this. And that, God created everything and it took 7 days or whatever. Okay, so we like those ideas. But again, that's in creation. So when it comes to consciousness contradicting itself, well, again, we're dealing with cause and effect in creation, in time and space. In reality, cause and effect does not exist. But in creation, it does. So again, look at I'll give another example as to how to answer this, and there's many ways. Look at everything we've created so far, just even in the last couple hundred years. Has it really improved us? Yes, on the one hand, we have a better lifestyle, but on the other hand, we're destroying the planet. So it's really contradicting itself as to what we're creating, isn't it? So again, when you have consciousness and it's a created thing, anything in creation is going to, you might say, face itself and have to deal with itself. So we've created all these things here. Now we got to deal with it. This is how creation is until we properly understand how to work with creation instead of creating things that work against us. So this is you're basically right, and that's one definition. But like like a picture that has can be 1,000 words. There's 1,000 different ways to define it, but it all comes out the same, because in creation we have cause and effect, and for the most part, people don't understand this. They just think, oh, I can create something and it'll be fine, it's wonderful, I can go sell it and sell it to the public and whatever. But actually, from your real awareness, once you learn to overview it, you'll see many times that things that you created really cause a demise to people. So yes, we can go back in history a little bit, and we'll use Henry Ford as an example. I'm not saying he created the first car, but we'll use him as an example. He started mass producing all these cars. Well, today, you know, even in those days, in the early 1900s, they had huge air pollution. Okay, so yes, Henry did devise this and the assembly line and all that, and we can think, oh, Jesus is wonderful. He's a wonderful inventor. But at the same time, he's killing people. He's choking the planet. So again, you know, we have to look at what we're creating. If we go to the indigenous people and say the American Indians, because we are in the United States here, didn't they work with nature? Did they create things that destroyed nature or disturbed nature? No, they didn't. And you know, their lifestyle was wonderful. They loved it, etc. But when the the know-it-all white man came along and started to industrialize the land, everything changed. In a short 200 years, here we are. Everything's polluted, poisoned, radiated, etc. We're all on drugs. I could just go on and on. Is it all necessary? When we look at that lifestyle and how wonderful it is, and you know, the Indians, they could leave their body, many of them. They could talk to nature. They work with nature. And if they needed something medicinal, they got it from nature. It was all there. It was all available to them. You see, this is the natural environment that supports us. But today, what is the big deal? People destroy the environment to chase created fake money. So, did the Indians need money? When we have the right attitude, about ourselves, creation, and then discover the true reality life is, and we put it all together, we get a lot better view. But again, that's an individual journey. It's not a collective one. So getting the masses together to do this or that doesn't work. It's one person at a time. So, you know, many of the things that we're seeing today, the protesting and that, and they're protesting governments, they want change and whatever. Well, it'll all be the same thing. It will never change because, again, look at human history. People think, oh, gee, you're being negative. No, I'm not being negative. I'm being real. I'm making sense of a situation, and that is that what I create here makes sense. What I'm presenting is to make sense of what people are going through, but if they don't want to make sense of it, that's their right also. So again, it's not an overnight course. It's like becoming a doctor and more so. It may take 10, 20, 30 years, or it may take lifetimes. I don't know. It's up to each person. But then again, we getting back to the question, we are in creation, and until people can recognize, the first step is to recognize their real awareness, and then take on the adventure and the risk to recognize the true reality life is, the all is, more so than the gods of man. But as people keep agreeing to the gods of man and the authoritarians on the earth, again, look at what we've gone through and come up through. It only gets worse. So is this working? I don't see it working. I see it imploding upon itself and not working. So again, people are not looking at what they're doing. They're just pretending that it's all going to be okay, and they keep creating things that cause the demise of themselves. So, there you go. That's one way to answer it. Yeah, it's a hint to it, and so again, our position is being real. So when we're in the psychic realms, we cannot prove anything. It's like the air we breathe. We cannot prove that the air is there, okay? But we're breathing it, and this is the true reality life is. This isn't. It already is. It supports everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist at all. So that's proof in itself, but yet you can't prove it to somebody. All we can do is hint at it. We can go through what it isn't. We can talk about what it really isn't, and then compare it to itself. Try and compare it to itself to recognize this. So again, if I'm sitting here telling you how wonderful tuna fish is, tuna fish sandwich, and how great it is and all the ideas, because they're just creations that I'm making up to try and define this thing, that does not hand you physically the sandwich. You then have to go do what you do to make that sandwich as I best defined it, so that you can have the experience too in your own way. So again, what we're presenting here, yes, it's about something that's undefinable, but yet is very, very real, because it is the isness life is. And so, it's a recognition. It's not a getting to it. It's not accomplishing something. It's recognizing it. Just like I put on the site, we are not a path or a teaching, and we're not. We're just being real with life, with our experiences. First, we have experiences. We add up these experiences to eventually we can recognize this true reality, and then becomes the real journey, but it's an invisible journey within ourselves. But once we see it, we know that it's more real than anything physical that we have, because it always is, all right? Just like the sun shining. The sun is always shining. But yet what we go through here in the physical and the psychic realms is we go through day and night, we go through birth and death, we go through all the opposites, because we are in creation and we haven't learned to recognize what is real aside from creation. So until the individual recognizes that for themselves and can stand in the true reality life is, they will constantly go through what is called karma and reincarnation, because this is how they eventually wake up. They will go through this process lifetime after lifetime, because these bodies can only last so long and endure so long, you see. So as long as people cling to just their personal self, then that's all they will have. But for certain individuals like yourself and us and others, there's a few out there, all of a sudden they're taking the risk, they're using the NUUU sessions, they're watching their dream visions, they're paying attention to the guidance, and all of a sudden they're waking up and seeing what is taking place here on this world with creation, this level, and now they're starting to experience the other levels of the natural environment. So it is a process. It's not something that we sit here and literally discuss back and forth thinking, oh, I know this, and, this is this, and, Jesus will save me and all that. And, hey, that's all fine, but those are ideas. What is your experience? But then again, a lot of people don't want to explore. They've been told that these things are voodoo, black magic, of the devil, all these things. So they've accepted barriers to an adventure like no other for themselves, as opposed to taking the risk and going beyond the illusions of what other people market. So again, each person has to decide if they will be the real risk taker and test this. And it's so easy, all of a sudden you realize, hey, gee, a child could do this. And it really is. It's the childlike attitude of just, letting go of the literal self, letting go of the emotional attachments, letting go of all the mental nonsense, and just being wonderful, just like being like the sunshine, like being like a butterfly that flies by. It's so simple. And then just accept the real guidance from life, because life then will show you. But as long as you want to be the know-it-all, okay, the great brain and the educated person with all the diplomas on your wall, that's fine, go ahead. But you block the reality of life and how it can show you how to be wonderful and free and be forever this being of light and the youth that you really want, because the youth that people want is not here. The fountain of youth is not here. It's in your real awareness. And there is a difference to recognize reality as opposed to having all these mental and emotional ideas that people carry that they're basically tap-blind with into other creations of others, and so it goes back and forth. And this is where people have cancers, diseases, and whatever.